You know, when you think about the evangelical movement, he is the man that has prayed with world leaders from royalty to U.S. presidents, while every day his focus is on Samaritan's Purse, his personal mission to take care of those less fortunate. Reverend Franklin Graham has not only been committed to caring for our country, but that has led him to the Oval to also privately meet with 6 U.S. presidents throughout his career. But it hasn't just been for prayer. He has never backed down from policy either, and taking and talking about his views, sometimes controversial in the political arena. But if you follow the Graham family legacy, you'll know that his father, too, the late Reverend Billy Graham, spent more than 80 years preaching to more people in live audiences than anyone else in history. Even Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance credits Billy Graham as introducing him to his journey of faith.
We went to church maybe once or twice a month, sometimes less, sometimes more. But she read the Bible every single day. She prayed every single day. She loved to watch Billy Graham whenever he was on the TV. And that was really my introduction to the Christian faith.
Reverend Franklin Graham joining me now as he prepares to speak and pray tonight before Donald Trump takes the stage that's right behind us. So good to see you.
Thank you, Kara. Great to be with you.
Well, you know, I was very, very fortunate to have time to spend with your father and to interview him, and even more times with you. And you have continued a beautiful legacy and mission and ministry. Here you are at the Republican National Convention. I am not surprised. Let me first ask you about the former president. Did you get a chance to speak with him, to pray for him, to talk to him after that attempted assassination attempt? And even if not, what was going through your mind when that happened?
I have not talked to him personally. Of course, I've written to him, Kara. And I think when all of us, when we saw him go down on that platform, we all began to pray. And when he stood up, how grateful we were to God for protecting him. And, you know, Kerry, he's had a near-life or near-death experience. And I think for all of us that have had those in life, it changes our perspective a little bit. We begin to focus differently on our priorities. And I think it's going to have an impact on him. And we'll have to wait and see what all that means. But I don't think you can come to something like that and have that happen and not begin to evaluate your own faith, evaluate God, realizing that, you know, we're on this earth just for a little time. Now, we could very easily be going to a memorial service today. But God saved him. God spared him. And how does God spare one life and take another life? I don't understand how that works. I don't have the answers to that. And so my heart goes out to the family that have lost their loved one, those that were hurt. But we're at the same time very grateful that Donald J. Trump is alive.
You know, as you say this, and I wasn't even going to ask this question, but it reminds me of when you wrote your book about your rebellious life. You had a time where you were not on a solid spiritual journey, and you were very transparent about that. When you think of this former president, a convicted felon, he's been tied to a porn star. He's said some pretty offensive things about people of color, about women. What do you think about that as you talk about this awakening you think he may have had after Saturday? How do you support this man and believe in this man, just knowing his background and where he stands?
We're all flawed individuals. I'm flawed. 50 years ago this month, Kira, I got my father. I was in Switzerland with my father, and he said, Franklin, it's your birthday. I'd like to take you somewhere to eat. Okay. So we went to a little Italian restaurant. He said, let's go for a walk. I said, okay. He said, Franklin, I want you to know your mother and I, we love you. Well, I didn't doubt that. I said, well, thanks. We walked a little further. Franklin, your mother and I want you to know you can always come home. Whenever you want, you can always come. Well, I hadn't thought about that, but thanks. Walked a little further, and he said, Franklin, your mother and I, since there's a battle for the soul of your life, and you're going to have to make a choice either to accept Jesus Christ or to reject him. There's no middle ground. And it made me mad when he said it. It made me angry. I didn't express that to him, but inside I was just angry. But about a week later, I just got on my knees. I said, God, I've sinned against you, and I'm sorry. Forgive me. I believe Jesus is your son. I believe that he died and shed his blood for my sins and that you raised him to life. If you can just take the pieces of my life and put it together, you can have it. And when I prayed that prayer, I meant it. We're all flawed, every last one of us. And no one's a greater sinner than another. It only takes one sin to keep you out of heaven. And we have to come to God through faith in his son, Jesus Christ. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. And so Donald J. Trump has made many mistakes in his life, and I'm sure he regrets many of them, or all of them. But at the same time, I look at his policies and what they do for America. When you lower the gas prices, you're doing more for the poor than any government program that you could ever have. And when you lower the gas price, that lowers the food prices. And so I believe that Donald J. Trump can help get this country's economy back to where the poor people and people on fixed incomes can afford it.
I know that's a very important issue to you because that's how you commit your entire life's mission to dealing with the poor and making life better for others and raising money and ministering to people around the world. Franklin, since we are talking about policy, let's talk about abortion. I mean, you've been very blunt about how you feel about that. You have said abortion is murder. Donald Trump says he's softening his stance on abortion now because a lot of harsh, I'm looking at the quote, harsh restrictions are alienating the voters. The GOP platform there has drawn a lot of criticism from evangelicals, particularly on that issue of abortion. What about you? Do you agree with these exceptions that Trump has talked about?
Well, first of all, I believe in life, and I want to protect life. President Trump, I think, has a very difficult position because he has to represent all of Americans, and that includes people who have different views. But I believe he's right when he says it's the states, leave it up to the states. Is that the answer that I would like? I would like to see it banned forever. But that's my position. And I believe President Trump has, Roe versus Wade had to be defeated, and he put the judges in place to make that happen. So I credit Donald J. Trump for that. No other president has been able to do that. And I just think it's the right decision. That was a bad ruling to begin with, and now it goes back to the states. And maybe we can fight it at every state level and get it defeated state by state.
I'll tell you what, there'll be a lot of people that argue with you, but I don't want to debate with you about abortion because I know where you stand, and that has always been where you stand. And you and I have had conversations on that over the years. Your remarks tonight, what do you plan to say?
Well, I've been asked to speak and then to give a prayer. And my remarks are to look back a little bit at what Donald J. Trump has been able to do for our country. I know that many in your business say that he lies. He's never lied to me. If he told me he was going to do something, he does it. And I appreciate that about him.
You're a lucky man, because there's a lot of individuals that would say just the opposite. But then he knows better not to lie to Reverend Franklin Graham.
No, but everything he said he would do, he's done. And I appreciate that about him. And, of course, then I'm going to pray that God would continue to protect him and his family and those that are around him. And I like his vice presidential pick. I like him. I like his wife. I think he's just got a great person there. Senator to support him. And if something were to happen to Donald J. Trump, he would make a good president, J.D. Vance. So he's a new face for the Republican Party. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. So, but I'm impressed with this team.
As you listen to them and their stances on various policies, we have to definitely talk about this tone that has taken place since that assassination attempt. When would we have ever expected to hear the former president out on his Truth Social, in addition to the President of the United States from the Oval, both talk about national unity? They've been nasty rivals, Franklin, as you know. with the ads, within the speeches, do you believe that this tone of national unity will be heard tonight by the former president and less of the dangerous rhetoric?
Well, I think some of that dangerous rhetoric has come from President Biden. That concerns me, from the things that he has said. But I think, no question, I think Donald Trump is going to reevaluate how he says things. I'm sure he will.
But did it concern you when the former president, the insurrection, the denying the election, it really brought out the worst of America, something you don't want to see? Was that a concern for you when those moments happened, those moments of dangerous rhetoric?
It concerned me when I saw some people breaking into the Capitol. It didn't concern me to see 1 million people out there who felt that they had been disenfranchised, that they felt that their votes had been stolen. And of course, that was just a few weeks after the election. I think people were concerned, and I think many people still believe that there was something that happened that night that caused the election to go the other way. I don't know, and that was then. We're now this year, and I think Donald J. Trump is going to be the next president, the 47th president of the United States.
One last thought. We can't ignore President Joe Biden. He now has COVID. There have been a lot of concerns about his mental acuity, his age. Are you praying for him? What are your thoughts about President Biden?
And tonight I'm going to remind people we're to pray for all of our leaders, whether Republican, Democrat, or Independent, because all authority is given by God. And we have to pray for President Biden. And I feel sorry for him because he's being betrayed by his own staff. They're throwing him under the bus. They're the ones who wanted that debate early. President Trump wasn't asking for an early debate. They were asking for the early debate. And they did that on purpose, I think, to throw him under the bus. And they're still doing it. And so I feel no one likes being betrayed. And he's being betrayed by his staff and those that are around him. And I just feel sorry for him. And I just pray that God will guide him, that he'll make the right decisions for himself and his family and for this country. But I would never tell him that he needed to step down or back away. I think God will do that when he feels it's time for Joe Biden to step aside, because God put him in that seat. All authority in heaven has been given by God. All authority. That means Joe Biden. So you want to be careful before you raise your hand against God's anointed.
Reverend Franklin Graham, so good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.